Hello, General Hospital today will reveal. The latest revelations from General Hospital hint at the beginning of what may be Drew Kane's long-awaited redemption arc, sparked by a catastrophic health crisis that could become a turning point in his life. After suffering a devastating stroke deliberately induced by Willow Kane through a syringe, the man once known for his strength, leadership, and steady moral compass now lies powerless in a hospital bed. His fate hangs in the balance not only physically but morally, emotionally, and spiritually. The medical team, initially grim in their prognosis, warned that Drew may never fully regain control of his body or mind. Yet in true Port Charles fashion, miracles are never completely off the table. This is no ordinary health scare. Drew's collapse came at the hands of someone he trusted, perhaps even loved. Willow's portrayal is particularly jarring, not simply because of her duplicity, but because it is cloaked in the false intimacy of a caring spouse. While the world may still believe she is the devoted partner standing vigil at his side, viewers know the sinister truth. Willow has weaponized Drew's vulnerability, using his immobility as a shield to continue manipulating those around her. Her calculated actions imprisoned within his own body. Yet as the days pass, the tide may be turning. Medical miracles have happened in Port Charles before, and Drew may be quiet, gathering the strength not only to recover, but to fight back. Their journey ahead is anything but simple. Drew's path to recovery will require extensive physical therapy, and perhaps more crucially, a painful emotional reckoning with the man he became. Once a man of honor, Drew's recent past has been stained with questionable choices and destructive alliances. He's burned bridges, abandoned loved ones, and wavered between ideals and self-interest. For many in his circle, the man in that hospital bed may no longer be recognizable. But pain has a way of unearthing truth, and trauma has a way of forcing change. As Drew lies in silence, unable to speak or defend himself, he may be doing the one thing he has avoided for far too long: reflecting. Redemption, however, is not merely about regret. It is about action. If Drew does recover, he will be forced to confront not only Willow, but a long list of people he has wronged or disappointed. How will he face Scout, the daughter he barely protected? What will he say to Michael, once an ally and now a potential adversary? Can he repair the damage with Carly, who stood by him until his loyalty faltered? Each relationship carries scars, and each one will demand a different kind of honesty. Port Charles has seen its fair share of prodigal returns, but the town has a long memory, and not everyone is ready to forgive. Physically, Drew's return to full health is uncertain. His body may heal slower than his heart, and each small triumph, wiggling a finger, forming a word, will feel monumental. The vulnerability of this process could become his greatest asset. Stripped of pride and power, Drew will be forced to depend on others in a way he never has. This could soften him, deepen his empathy, and realign his priorities. For a man who wants to find himself through control and stoicism, this surrender fragility might be the thing that saves him. Meanwhile, Will's performance as the devoted wife is becoming increasingly hollow. Her visits to the hospital may appear loving, but those who observe closely might detect cracks in her mask. The guilt may be starting to creep in, or worse, the fear that Drew will recover and expose her. If Drew does speak again, what secrets will he reveal? And how far will Willow go to keep those secrets buried? The threat of exposure looms large, and viewers can expect mounting tension as Drew's condition slowly improves. There's also the broader question of justice. If Drew eventually regains his voice and memory, his testimony could dismantle Willow's carefully constructed facade. But what will it cost him? Speaking out could reignite old vendettas and plunge him back into the potential impersonal minefields he narrowly escaped. Alternatively, silence might protect him from further harm but leave others vulnerable to Willow's schemes. The moral complexity of this decision will test the very core of Drew's identity. Is he still the man who would risk everything to do what's right, or has survival hardened him into someone else? As the show progresses, Drew's storyline could evolve into one of the most compelling arcs General Hospital has delivered in recent years. His physical journey, from bedridden patient to potentially walking, talking hero, will serve as a powerful metaphor for personal rebirth. But the emotional terrain may prove even more perilous. Recovery will not erase his mistakes, it will merely illuminate them. Redemption will not come easily, and it will not come without pain. But it can come. Port Charles thrives on transformation, and Drew may be on the cusp of the most transformative chapter of his life. With each flicker of muscle and spark of cognition, he edges closer to reclaiming not just his body but his soul. The question is not just whether Drew will heal, but what kind of man he will become in the process. And when that moment arrives, when he finally opens his eyes, moves his lips, and speaks his truth, will Port Charles be ready for what he has to say? The storm is coming, and Drew Cain may rise from its eye not as the man he was, but as the man he was meant to be. In the quiet, immobile hours that follow trauma, when every second stretches into reflection and every breath reminds one of mortality, Drew Cain may finally be given the most precious and painful gift of all time. Stripped of his physical independence and the usual distractions of daily life, Drew now finds himself suspended between the past he cannot change and the future he must confront. He can no longer run, no longer fight, no longer command or manipulate. All he can do is lie still and think. And perhaps in that stillness, Drew will finally begin to wrestle with the question he has long avoided. What kind of man does he truly want to be? This enforced period of convalescence, likely to span weeks, if not months, offers Drew a rare opportunity for internal recalibration. The version of himself that once prioritized mission over emotion, loyalty over love, and image over integrity has clearly failed him. His downward spiral wasn't marked by one single decision, but rather by a slow erosion of the values that once defined him. The betrayal he now suffers at the hands of Willow is almost karmic, a mirror held up to his own failings. It forces him to see, perhaps for the first time in a long while, the faces of those he left behind, those he failed to protect, including the one person who needs him more than anyone else, his daughter, Scout Quartermain. There was a time when Drew's devotion to Scout was unquestioned. He spoke often of her safety, her happiness, her future. But as the political and emotional pressures of Port Charles consumed him, those paternal instincts dimmed behind ambition, distraction, and a slow descent into moral compromise. Now, with every nurse's visit and every silent hour in a hospital room devoid of Scout's laughter, Drew was reminded of just how far he strayed from his role as a father. If this medical crisis does anything, it may rekindle the embers of fatherhood in his fractured soul. It may give him the clarity to realize that all the power in the world means nothing if he loses his daughter's love and trust. The road to redemption will not be smooth. There are deep emotional wounds left unhealed between Drew and Scout. She may still carry resentment, confusion, or even fear. Rebuilding that bridge will require humility, patience, and proof, not promises. But Drew's journey toward emotional recovery could become one of the most resonant stories General Hospital chooses to. By showing a broken man choosing to become better, not just stronger, the writers could reframe Drew as a symbol of emotional resilience, rather than just physical survival. There's also the question of whether the show's creative team will take full advantage of this narrative crossroads. In recent weeks, subtle hints have been layered into the story. Nina Reeves, for instance, has expressed a fragile hope that this might be Drew's moment of true transformation. Perhaps she sees a version of him that still clings to decency beneath the wreckage. Perhaps she believes that suffering can be a teacher, and that Drew's ordeal might awaken his better angels. But not everyone shares Nina's optimism. Kai Taylor, more cynical and grounded in past disappointments, has been vocal in his skepticism. From his perspective, Drew's character has already been tested through bullets, betrayals, and near-death experiences, and failed. If those trials couldn't shift his moral compass, why should this one Kai's doubts aren't baseless? The idea that a man can fundamentally change after a traumatic event is romantic, but not always realistic. Port Charles has seen many characters flirt with redemption only to backslide into old habits. The question remains whether Drew will be different, or whether this is just another cycle in a long pattern of denial and avoidance. Will he truly confront his guilt, his anger, and his emotional negligence? Or will he simply emerge from the shadows with a rehearsed apology and a plan to reclaim control? It is entirely possible that this stroke will mark not just a physical recovery but a symbolic resurrection. As Drew regains mobility, he might choose to disengage from the toxic entanglements that once defined him, distancing himself from power plays, emotional manipulation, and those who encouraged his worst instincts. He might seek out Scout not with entitlement but with vulnerability. He might ask forgiveness not from a position of authority but from a place of surrender. If the writers are bold, they'll lean into this transformation and allow Drew to explore layers of vulnerability rarely granted to male characters on daytime television. Rather than return as a battle-scarred warrior or brooding antihero, Drew could re-emerge as a man determined to live with emotional honesty. This opens the door to meaningful interactions with characters who have also undergone painful growth. A renewed bond with Carly could emerge, one based not on past loyalties but present accountability. A reconciliation with Sam and co-parenting Scout might be explored in more honest, grounded terms. Even Drew's dynamic with Nina could evolve into a surprisingly mature friendship, one rooted in shared regrets and mutual growth. Conversely, his relationship with Kai could become even more complex, embodying the tension between doubt and hope that defines so many real-world struggles for change. Ultimately, Drew's recovery arc stands at a dramatic and thematic crossroads. He can emerge hardened and vengeful, seeking retribution for Willow's betrayal. Or he can rise with deeper perspective, choosing to live differently. Both paths carry rich storytelling potential, but only one offers the kind of emotional catharsis that could truly redefine his legacy in Port Charles. Whether General Hospital commits to this reinvention remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the Drew Cain who wakes up fully recovered will not be the same man who collapsed. The only question that remains is whether that change will be real or just another illusion crafted by a man desperate to believe he's already paid the price for his sins. Drew Cain's stroke, unlike many medical crises seen in Port Charles, may be unique not just in its physical severity but in its symbolic weight. While General Hospital has featured characters rebounding from near-death experiences with astonishing speed, this particular event is unfolding at a slower, more deliberate pace, one that seems tailor-made for introspection and transformation. The extent of Drew's neurological trauma has made it clear that recovery won't be immediate. His physical rehabilitation may take months, if not longer, and during that time, he'll be forced into a state of vulnerable stasis, where he must confront the harshest truths of all the ones that, to live within himself.